You are here because the outside world rejects you.
April becomes a cockroach in the Mirage comics. This last one is very bizarre, yet twisted and kinda dark when you hear some of the details. This took place towards the tail end of the Mirage comics, when they started doing them again after Image Comics had their run, so right before they sold to Nickelodeon. April in this finds out some fascinating details about her past. We start off in an attic where April is showing Casey Jones some films of her family vacations. One in particular is bothering her, as in the film she notices her father is sketching a portrait of her, but something's not adding up. In the film, her sister, who is 4 years older than her, appears to only be around 2 years old in the movie. April hadn't been born yet. How is this possible? In a desperate search for answers, she uses a watch summoner that Renette, a timetress and ally of April and the Turtles, gave to her for emergency use only. At first she uses it, but Renette doesn't show up. But then, when April gives up and gets in her car, Renette shows up with a somber look on her face. She knew this time would come. She knows what April's going to ask, to reveal the secrets of April's origin. The two then leave to head into the past. Renette does mention one thing before they go, that the eyes with which April will see the past will not be her human eyes, and so they go. As they arrive in the past, April immediately realizes she's different physically. She explains that her breath was not coming from her mouth anymore, but from her sides instead. Also that her body became stiff and that her joints felt different. Then she looked down and saw 6 insect limbs. Then it hit her. She had become a cockroach, now clinging on her family's apartment ceiling 30 years ago. Her dad was sketching and her mom was there, and they were having a heated discussion about adoption. Apparently something happened during April's older sister's birth to where April's mom couldn't have any more kids. This was news to April. She had never heard this before, but this would just be one of the secrets revealed during this trip. Later, she follows her father down to the second time around shop that he ran. He was going through some boxes that he purchased at an estate sale. As he went through, he found what appeared to be a pencil holder of sorts with a crystal inside of it, very similar to the crystal Donatello dealt with in earlier Mirage comics that had come out many years before. In that story, the crystal belonged to a guy named Kirby who could bring mysterious beings to life and open portals to other dimensions with it. Her dad took the artifact back upstairs to their apartment, but April couldn't follow as the door was closed. Then her and Renette realized they were both hungry, and a somewhat of an animal instinct kicked in. And this is where we get some twisted moments that ended up messing with April's mind later on. You see that they stayed for days. They had to crawl through dark spaces, flee from predators, eat small pieces of dead things, and even mating with other cockroaches. Yeah, you heard that right. Now eventually, April finally got to see how she came to be. One day her father was sketching and got an idea to put a pencil into the artifact with the crystal. At first he started drawing apples, and he noticed as he drew more of them, more would materialize onto the table where the original apple sat. Then he did a yellow jacket and it too materialized and flew around. Shortly after, he noticed that the items faded away. He kept practicing with other things and noticed that some objects lasted longer than others, particularly a puppy that he drew for April's sister. It lasted 2 weeks, then poof, it was gone too. Though when this puppy was around, this gave April's dad an idea. After studying the artifact, he noticed that the things he put more emotional energy into while he was drawing lasted longer, hence the puppy. So he and April's mom then decided to draw a baby. So came their first attempt, and the baby appeared. For the next few weeks, they were ecstatic, and April's sister was happy to have a baby sister. But then one night, the baby vanished, just like the other things. April's mom was devastated, but they tried again, and this one looked identical to the first one. They named her April this time around, but this one only lasted 42 days and also vanished. This crushed April's mom even further, to the point where she didn't want to try anymore. But April's dad, in a drunken desperation, tried one more time, but this time with ink instead of a pencil. But since it was ink, there was no room for error, and so he drew carefully. When he was done, they had a baby girl again, except this time she appeared not to vanish, but it took April's mom many months before she accepted this new infant. This April grew up, lived a life, and eventually became the adult April we all know from the Mirage comics. Now April did do one more thing before going back to the present. In an attempt to hide the crystal artifact that started all this, both April and Renette exhausted their cockroach bodies and in turn died. And in dying, they had returned to the present, now knowing her true origins.
Armed.